Okay, we are almost 8, 9 students, as I can see. So we might start discussing together, and then others might join us. Meanwhile, if you have any questions or whatever, you can ask me, you can interrupt me. Okay. So as you can see, now we should go with our new episode, so-called Chapter 5. It deals with consumer market and consumer buy behavior. As you may know, generally, there are 4 markets. So we have consumer market. We are also interested about business markets, international market, and so on. So on this chapter, we'll discuss together what comprises a consumer market, or what makes a consumer market, and also how those consumers behave, which means we look at the model of consumer buy behavior. And there, as you may know, there are many factors that influence buyer behavior, whether it be consumer market, business market, etc. And then we look together on how consumers make decisions. So consumers, when coming to make decisions, they follow certain steps, which are called stages in the process of buying decision. And finally, to see how consumers adopt new products and how they diffuse the product. And it is called adoption and diffusion process for new products. And now, if we look, what is a consumer? Usually, a consumer is the end buyer of a product. It doesn't necessarily mean that a consumer buys for himself, etc. It means that someone else can buy a product and someone else can be a final consumer of the product. So we have the terms consumer, and then we have consumer market. So a consumer market consists of individuals. So it is full of individuals that buy products for their households, I mean families. So someone buys and others can consume it, whether it be goods, services, etc. And now, why it is important to understand consumer behavior? Generally, if you look at yourself as a consumer, do you or do we always know what influences us while getting decisions to get a product? And this question is very crucial for companies. So companies are interested to find out why or what makes consumers buy certain products. What are such factors that have the most impact on their buying decisions? So, usually, or the central question for every company, for every marketer is, how do consumers respond to various marketing efforts the company might use? As you may know, companies, they do many marketing efforts. They try to influence, impact consumers to buy the products rather than buy products or services from competition. In other words, as you may see in the slides, they look for the action that a person, and in this case, consumer, takes while purchasing, while using product services, what happens in their cognitive part, which means mental. You have also social processes that influence the consumer to proceed to make such actions. Companies usually ask many questions. Usually they pose themselves, as you may know, the journalistic questions with why, questions that start with W. Why consumers make the purchase, what factors, who buys, because it's very important. For example, who buys? for us it's very important to know who buys for the family. Is what member of the family buys for the whole family, for the whole household. So in that way, we can relate and link our promotional activities. For example, if the man is a member of household, does all the buying, then while we designing a promotion strategy, we usually target those people. Then there are products that are linked with occasions, so we need to find out when do they buy it. Do they buy certain products for certain events, certain fees, etc.? How do they buy it? Then you have where. Where do they buy? Do they prefer to buy in big supermarkets, malls, or do they buy in convenience stores, etc.? And then we want to find out how they react to certain marketing strategies. As you may know, companies, they make a lot of marketing strategies, and at the end they want to test whether certain strategy had more impact or less impact, etc., etc. Another thing that marketers want to find out, how do consumers respond to various marketing stimuli? So stimuli are information that we get through our senses, whether that be by touching, so we touch products, we see products, we smell food, for example, etc. So everything we get through our five senses, it is linked with stimulus. Then we want to find out how such stimuli, influence consumer buying behavior. For example, when you enter a shop, a supermarket, when you see a lower price, that is a stimulus that you get from your side, and that lower price might influence you on buying certain products. So marketers needs to get into the so-called black box. So in between there is a black box. It means that we do not understand consumers a lot. So we want to enter the black box and to find out about consumers. If it was very easy to understand consumers, if we understood them completely, there wouldn't have been any problem for companies. Any company would have been successful. Any products launched would have been successful. As you may know, not all products launched, not products introduced are successful. And there are reasons why some products fail, some products do not fail, succeed. And there are a lot of products that do not succeed in their second year, which means you do not see them in the market in their second year. And what has made that? It is the fact that we do not understand consumers a lot. And as I told you, even when we behave as consumers, sometimes we do not understand why we behave that way, why we buy that way, etc. So I mentioned in the beginning that we look at the model of buyer behavior. As you can see here in the middle, you have buyer black box. So that buyer black box is filled with buyer characteristics, which are linked with buyer decision process. But before that, since it is a process, before making decisions, there are some other factors that might influence. For example, you have stimuli from marketing part, which are linked with 4 P's, which are product. So a product, well-designed product, qualitative product, might influence you getting price. Then if you find a product with a fair price, then you think that the product has its value and is worth that money. Then place, which is linked with distribution, it also might have an impact on you. For example, it happens when you travel to other places and you notice some products available at such places when you go on holidays, etc. And such products you do not have at your places. And then a place, distribution place, can influence buying the product. And then you have promotion. If a company does a nice and fancy promotion, then it might have an impact on you. And on the other side, you have uh, other factors that might have influence on you while buying the product. Economic, which are linked with buying power, purchasing buying power. Then technological, if the product is made through a good technology. Then political also may have an impact. And finally, cultural. Cultural, usually within cultures, we see consumers behave the way in that culture they behave. Sometimes we say that the aspect of culture shapes our consumer behavior. And then, as you can see, you have these stimuli that might have impact on us. And then you have buyer black box, which is full with buyer characteristics. For example, as a buyer characteristics, you may notice, for example, it is age, gender, uh, and some other factors. And then you have buyer decision. And then we have responses, how consumers respond while choosing a product, while choosing a certain brand, a dealer, time to purchase, how much to purchase, etc. So this is so-called model of buyer behavior. So we saw what is meant by buyer's black box. So a buyer black box is filled with buyer's characteristics. And these characteristics influence consumers how perceives stimuli and how reacts to that given stimuli, whether it be a nice location, a nice promotion, a nice price, etc. Here there is an activity. For example, for something you have purchased recently, tell us about what went on in your black box. Could someone just mention something that you purchased recently and to describe in few words, what did you think about while you were deciding whether to buy it or not, and what factors influenced? Are you with me?
Yes, but we didn't buy many stuff since Corona.
Yeah. So then I would rephrase the phrase in the past. What did you purchase in the past? If you may recall something, if not, then we might go on.
I bought before the lockdown headphones for listening, and there were many brands, of course, but I didn't do much research. I just Googled which company has had the most market share in the last 10 years for headphones, and it was Sony, so I bought Sony headphones.
So you were influenced, or the others? Can you tell me what influenced your friend getting Sony? Is it brand? Is it price? Is it reference group? Or is it others what have bought?
Maybe the price and the brand, mostly.
Yeah, brand.
Okay, price and the brand. Agree.
It was the brand.
It was the brand.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, sorry. as you can see, you have some factors we mentioned. These are called the four factors that have most impact on consumer behavior. So as you can see, we start with cultural factors, social, personal, and finally psychological factor. What do you think? Which of these factors have more influence on you as a buyer or as a consumer?
I think the social is important.
Pardon me?
Isn't it personal?
The social.
Are you saying social?
Yes.
I think personal.
I think because we get affected by the...
Like if you're a retired person, you don't buy young people stuff.
You won't buy headphones.
Yeah.
You might, because you are losing your hearing and you need headphones to listen.
Yeah, but that's different.
Not those kind of headphones.
Yeah. Not Sony, they are not Sony.
Okay. Why not personal? So you are not free to choose.
No, Burim, they force Burim to buy stuff. I don't know.
No. The reason that I chose the social was that because we get affected by the people around us, and we see, for example, like if a lot of our friends, for example, bought PlayStation, like we are likely to buy one. Like it's like kind of psychological relation.
Okay.
Like all of them affect us.
Okay. So reference groups means people that influence us. For example, if you want to make a buying decision to buy products, services, or whatever, so you look first at those groups and you see, for example, if you want to buy, let's say, sportswear, whether Nike, Adidas, or etc. So you look at other people, right? You start looking at them, what are they wearing, etc. If you want to have your hair cut, and you start looking at people's hair, right? And if you want to buy shoes, then when you go, you do window shopping, right? You look at shoes, etc., right? But generally, reference groups has an impact. What about families? Families also influence us a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. From the time when we are small, they sit us on a table, they teach us how to eat, how to get the spoon, etc. And whether, for example, if they tell you to go to buy somewhere, they tell you where to go, right? What shop, etc. Then you have roles, status in a society. Does it have an impact on us? What products to select? What products to buy? Yes. So there are pressures that our status in a society makes us. For example, if they think you belong to, let's say, high class in a society, then you should purchase or consume products, services that are in line with that group of society. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Yes.
And then in the beginning, we have cultural factors. As you may know, cultural influences us a lot. They say that culture shapes the way we consume products, etc., etc. There are products that are culturally accepted, and there are products that are not culturally accepted. Let's give you an example. For example, in most African and Asian countries, they wear dresses, clothing, dress, you know, and here only women wear dresses, right? But there is culturally accepted. But here for men, it's not culturally accepted. And then on third column, we have other factors which are linked with personality. For example, we have age and life cycle stage. With age, since we grow up, we change our pattern of buying behavior. If we used to buy certain products when we were younger, now we consume other products, right? And generally, people go to many life cycle stage like products. For example, we are young children, young adults, or we might say we get married, we have children, etc. So when you get married and when you have children, then you change your buying pattern, because now when you have children, the focus now is more on children, and you buy more products related with children, nappies, etc., etc. Then occupation, it has an impact on what products we buy, etc. So nowadays, since the economy turns more on services, then we need to buy, let's say, clothing for offices. We use suits, ties. And then another factor, you have economy situation, lifestyles. So different people have different lifestyles. So you may take an example of jeans, for example. Some people use baggy, baggy jeans. Some use slim fit. So it depends to their lifestyle. And finally, you have psychological. So psychological factors are linked with, as you can see, motivation, perception, learning, beliefs, and attitudes. Motivation, it is a drive that leads you to satisfying a certain need. If the need is higher, then you have bigger motives or bigger motivation to satisfy that. Then you have perception, we'll see later. We have learning, beliefs, attitudes, etc. Here on the slide, you have in more details culture. So we together discuss it. So we'll go on. And within a certain culture, you might find certain groups that have many common things, many common experiences. For example, students might represent a subculture. It means the way they spend their time, what services they get, etc. Then we have social class. Social class also has an impact on what people buy, etc., etc. And how our social class determined? So it depends to countries. For example, if you look to in ancient Egypt, so the social class was like pyramids, and at the bottom you had workers, and on the top you have pharaoh's families. Now, what is the idea of social class here? The idea is that every class, social class, has an impact on what products to consume, what services, etc., etc. Here you have, when you have time, you can look at how social class is layered in United States. As you can see, you have down lower class, lower American, middle, upper middle, lower upper Americans with percentages, how much comprises that level. And down, as you can see, social class determines what types, what quality, what quantity of product that persons buy or uses. Usually lower classes have lower purchasing power, and usually they don't tend to buy much luxurious products. They don't tend to buy brands, etc. Then we have social factors. Some of you friends mentioned that reference groups are very important. Yes. And reference groups, they serve as direct or indirect points of comparison. So we usually compare ourselves with such people. Sometimes we want to be like them, we want to behave like them. And if you look deeper, you might see we have aspirational groups. These groups are groups that we as individuals want to belong to. But what is important on such reference groups concerning companies? Within groups, there are people that are so-called opinion leaders. These consumers are very influential. They have special skills, knowledge, personality exercise to control others. And companies try to attract such consumers because those consumers will spread word of mouth to others. Because those are the first ones that would try the product, would experience the product, and would try to spread word of mouth. Then within social factors, we mentioned families. Then personal factors on biased decisions, a variable, as you can see here, which is occupation. So here you have blue collar and white collar worker, means blue collar, those that perform more physical works. They stay outside and usually they need, they buy different, let's say, clothing. Collar worker, collar, it is called this part here, it is white, so they need suits, all the stuff for working in the offices. They need some technology, IT technology, etc. Age and family life cycle, as you know, consumer change over time, and this might have an impact on declining, on consuming some products, but also on growth or demanding from some other products. And now, how to analyze lifestyle? There is a figure here with AEO dimension, which is a technique of measuring lifestyle known as psychographics. So it divides consumers' lifestyles and what products they might consume, use. So here, if you have time, this is called VALS. Value and lifestyle typology. You have 8 groups here. So some consumers might be innovators, and you see their characteristics. Okay, then some others, thinkers, believers, achievers, strivers, etc. Then we have personality also have an impact. And finally, we have psychological factors, which are motivation, perception, learning, beliefs, and attitudes. Motives, companies or marketers want to find out what motives consumers have in buying. For example, here you have an example of Rolex watches. What is the motive behind their decision of buying that product? Is it just for accurate time keeping, or it is a symbol of their status?
Flexing.
Yes.
Simple.
So why do you buy your Rolex? It's just to show your exact time, or just to
show off?
Show off how much money you can spend on nothing.
Okay. And I hope you know about Maslow's hierarchy. So as you know, the core concept of marketing is how to satisfy the needs of consumers. And Maslow comes with hierarchy of needs. And Maslow thinks that certain nations belong to certain hierarchy of needs. The idea is when we satisfy certain needs, then we tend to ask for satisfying other needs. For example, countries in developing, which are in their developing stage, for example, they want to satisfy the basic needs, for example. So let me show you. Yes. So as you can see, it is like pyramids. So consumers first start to satisfy physiological needs, which is water, food, etc. Then they look for satisfying other needs, physical safety, security, then social, ego, self-actualization, etc. So let me give you an example. So self-actualization means opportunities for innovation, creativity, or let me give you an example, going to opera, etc. So would you go to opera if you are hungry? If you haven't satisfied your physiological needs? I don't think that you would. No, I don't think that you would think of any master program first if you haven't satisfied your basic needs, right? So first we look at then safety. You look now safety. We stay all at our houses, right? Because of safety. We don't think of going sightseeing, visiting museums, etc. So first we want to secure the basic needs. Unfortunately. Are you with me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Then perception. Perception means the way how an individual perceives an external stimuli influences his or her behavior. Now, what is the impact for us here as a marketers? For example, while designing a marketing strategy, let's say a promotion. So we want to see everyone, generally, everyone to get the same, approximately the same message, even though we perceive things the way we want to see them, right? If 10 of you, for example, saw an accident before coming to classes or to this virtual class, and I'm asking you what happened. So everyone will come with different perceptions. And perceptions are linked with the thing, what we want to perceive, are linked with our beliefs about things, about work, about objects, about products, etc. And in this case, if I ask you, what have you seen? So someone might come, might tell me, well, we saw an accident and I felt very sorry for that expensive car. And someone else might come and might say, well, I feel very sorry for that family, children were crying, etc., etc. So it depends how we perceive things. So here you have a definition, what is meant by perception. So perception means the process of selecting, how we select. So remember, we select differently. Usually we select because we are bombarded with too many information, and we select only the information we are interested. Remember the case I told you about reference groups. So if you want to buy shoes, then you perceive stimuli or only related with shoes. So you select only sites that are linked with shoes, etc. So perception is the process of selecting. Then we organize them. Organizing means how do you want to memorize, remember, or just you throw them up? and you interpret information inputs to produce meaning, picture. Now, when producing meaning, as I explained before, we give meaning the way we want to see, the way we want to picture the world, right? And this way of picturing is very much linked with our beliefs, with our experiences, etc. And on perception as a process, all people or individuals, they go through these three phases. The first so-called, it is called selective attention. As I told you, so before coming to school, for example, let's suppose that you come to university and you are bombarded with too many information. So you perceive too many information, but you do not memorize. You do not, you are not interested to all of them. Only you are interested to get information that have meaning to you, and then you ignore the others. And then this is called selective attention. So we select certain stimuli while we perceive. Then you have the second phase, the so-called selective distortion. It is how we give meaning to such information we receive. Okay, so usually we give meaning the way we want to give meaning, the way we want to picture them, and finally we have selective retention. Which information to remember and which one to not remember. So this is the process of perception. So perception is the process of selecting, the way we organize, and the way we interpret information. And then we have learning. So basically learning means repeating certain behavior. So when we repeat certain behavior, then we say we are learned. And marketers want to influence or make consumers learn. So how can they learn? So they focus to repeat buying. So in order to repeat buying, they need to do something. So in order to make consumers repeat their behavior, their buying, they have to satisfy them. Usually a learning occurs by a drive. So what was a drive? A drive is a motive for something. And then the consumer looks at cues. A cues, it can be everything like a side. It can be a price, a nice package, a nice promotion. And then we have response. The consumers buys. And then companies want to assure that this response to be repeated. And when it is repeated, it is learning. And we say, I have learned that Mavi jeans suits me well, right? So if you are satisfied with certain products, then you would repeat. But companies have to play their part in order to make consumers learn. So repeat their behavior. Then we have beliefs and attitudes. Beliefs, they are descriptive thoughts that a person have for something, etc. Attitudes, we have attitudes describes our evaluation of products. We might say Honda, good cars, Toyota, never broke, etc. So these are attitudes. And then, so we discussed so far the consumer buying models. As you saw, we have marketing stimuli in the beginning, which are linked with marketing piece, then some other factors